everybody. It's September 30th, 2018, and it's your episode 163 of At Percussion. I'm your host, Casey Cangelosi, and we've got two of the usuals here with us. We've got Laurel Black.
Hi.
And Megan Arns is here.
Hello.
And you guys, our guest is the co-founder of the Sleeping Giant Composer Collective. Also, he is the co-director of the Timestwo series and teaches composition at NYU Steinhardt. You can check him out at www.roberthonstein.com. So yeah, please welcome to the show, Robert Honstein. How's it going?
Going well. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And I wanted to ask you, Laurel and I will be taking our newborn son to PASIC this year, and it's always such a long walk through the exhibition hall. And I'm just wondering, could you possibly bring a couch to your composer collective booth?
In fact, I've got you covered. No need for you to bring the couch. I'm bringing one myself.
I see.
Okay. Funny you ask.
So this is your composer collective. Can you just tell us a little about Sleeping Giant Composer Collective?
So, well, actually, the first thing is it's not Sleeping Giant. So I'm a very collectivized individual. I tend to attach myself to groups. It's nice. It's better to move in packs than solo, I find. Right. So the PASIC collective is called Living Room Music, and we call ourselves. It's a very loose publishing collective. We don't really have a lot of structure outside of the fact that I think it might be our 5th year now, which is incredible. We get a booth together, and the whole kind of concept is really simple. It was first of all, I should say that the people that started it are Elliot Cole, myself, Andrea Mazzariello, Dave Mulk, and Wally Gunn. And especially in the last couple of years, we have started bringing on more guests that sort of year by year. Last year we had composer Tonya Ko and Carl Schimmel. This year, Maria Finkelmeyer will be there as a guest, and Anna Sokolovsky, who's a composer from Princeton, and Alexis Lamb, who is a percussionist and a composer. So anyway, but the concept is really quite simple. We were basically like 5 years ago, Elliot especially was like, I've written a lot of percussion music. Who are some people I know who've written a lot of percussion music, and what if we just got a booth and tried to sell music? And so we did. We split the cost of the booth and of, so then the other part of it is once we started to do this, we looked up what it costs to rent furniture from the approved convention center vendor. And it's like highway robbery. It's like $100. Yeah. It's like $100 for a folding chair. It's
insane.
It's a joke,
Yeah.
So immediately we were like, okay, we need to figure out something else. So I don't remember whose idea it was, but someone had the brilliant idea of, let's just go to a thrift store and buy all of our furniture there and then just use that. And so that's what we did. And that's how it became the living room music concept, because, we don't think we've ever actually had a couch, but it has this sort of vibe of like a living room, because we'll get some chairs, we'll get some random coffee table, maybe like a little side table, some lamps. We always have one sort of random decorative element. I think our first year was some cat pictures. We've had ducks, something fun, We had a little samovar. Our thought was to pour tea, but that kind of the logistics of that didn't work out. But anyway, it is actually amazing, because we found out that the sort of economic reality of we just can't afford to rent all this stuff. Dovetailed really nicely with the setting and image we were trying to present, which is, PASIC there's a lot going on. There's a billion concerts. You're seeing a billion people. Everyone's just operating on fully switched on. And then when you go to the convention floor, it's just loud. It's, everyone's drumming loudly, and there's so much to see. It's just an overwhelming environment. So we thought, okay, maybe the best thing we can do is to create, as best we can, a setting where you could, if you wanted to, just sit down, listen to music, talk or relax, just a bit of a refuge. So it really worked well, because, and the other thing is, it was kind of the best marketing you could ask for in a way, because even people that don't care about new music, they remember, oh, what's that weird, or they notice what's that weird booth with the cat picture and the like the chairs and the coffee. I'm not, like, it's just so, it looks so unusual in that setting. So that's what we've been doing every year since. I hope that nobody from where is it this year? Indianapolis again? I forget.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I really hope no one from like the Indianapolis Convention Center is listening to this because I keep thinking we're like breaking a rule and that someone's going to crack down, like you're required to use their vendor or something. But
gosh.
I mean, nobody has done that yet. And honestly, we're such a small operation. I would be shocked. We literally just, the advance, we kind of had gotten better at this over the years. At first, we would do it ourselves and then we'd have to get a cab. And like, it was always this process to like move the furniture. But last year we just did, I don't know, something like 2 guys in a truck or something. We like set up an appointment in advance for the 2 guys in a truck to show up at the thrift store. They put it all in their truck. We got a cab back to the convention center. It was so easy. Like it was just, and then at the end, we bring it back.
That was my question.
Yes. We just bring it right on back to the same place. So it's like, we don't get a refund. I guess it's kind of like a donation to Goodwill ultimately.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it ends up costing maybe a couple $100 max to furnish that entire booth, which when you think about what it costs to rent the normal, one chairs, it's just like, makes so much sense.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of living room music. And I mean, it's really turned into a very interesting thing for us because, there's plenty of composers at PASIC. Oftentimes composers are there to hear their pieces performed. Obviously, there's lots of music that's published that's on offer there, but usually it's through a publisher, which is a slightly less personal situation because, the publisher's representatives are there. It's not necessarily the composer that you're talking to. But so what it's created for us is this opportunity to just without any middlemen or barrier, just interact directly with people who are interested in our music and help to build a community of people around it. And that's been really cool. I mean, a lot of the times it's people we already knew, and it's kind of a chance to reinforce that. Or, like what's been happening over the years is like, say, somebody is teaching somewhere, they'll go tell their students to check out our booth. And so those students will be exposed and be able to listen to some music. Or it's random passerbys. You might get just some random person that's struck by the way it looks and wants to sit down and listen to something. So it's been just a really great way for us to meet people and build community, sell a little music. But honestly, over time, I feel like it's more about just like the network and relationship of that than it is about just actually the music we sell. Because, it's just led to performances, to commissions, to projects, to just a whole kind of thing, so that's been really cool. Yeah.
It's really so great, and I always notice the booth. And of course, I went to school with Elliot, so I always try to talk to Elliot when I can. Everyone's always so slammed at PASIC, but I think it's such an effective and efficient use of a smaller booth, because try to look at some music at the Steve Weiss booth. Of course, they have so much music there, but it's so hard to try to really take your time and look at something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, y'all's booth has a ton of traffic too. Sometimes you can't get a spot on that couch, but when you do, it's perfect. It's exactly what you want.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out ways. It's so funny. Like, you never think that it's such a simple concept, but now we're already trying to figure out ways to accommodate the fact that we're growing as composers. Like, our catalogs are growing. Like, it used to be we all show up with like every piece we wrote for percussion. Mm-hmm. And now 5 years later, that's like too much music. So we're experimenting with different ideas. Like, I think what we hit on is this menu concept. So like we have like these menus where it's like featured items, and it's like kind of the newer stuff, and then there will be we sort of are modeling on like a record store concept. Like, there'll be like the featured things, and then there'll be like a back catalog bin. So like if anyone really wants to dig deep, they can find some old stuff. But we have to get creative with the space because it's not a lot of space, but I still think it's a really nice vibe. So.
I think the other thing that's really nice for the consumer or the percussionist is that sets you apart from other booths is that you have the ability to listen there, that there are multiple stations where you can listen and watch the score at the same time. And also that there are so many composers there. There are so many people that represent the Living Room Collective that are there, and you can talk to live living composers about their music, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's really special, and that's happening, you know, all over the world, but that's not something that's like actively represented at PASIC. Like maybe it is a little bit in the performance space where the composers are there, but I love that in the exhibit hall, I mean, so much percussion music is written by living composers, yet, you know, that's not really the composers aren't always there and available, accessible in the exhibit hall at PASIC.
Well, I think actually one interesting difference is that, especially in percussion, there are a lot of percussionists who are also composers. Right? So like, if you go to the bigger ones like Steve Weiss or Lone Star, or I don't remember some of the other ones, you know, you will find percussionist composers represented very well. And there's a decent chance that some of those will actually be at the conference as well, in the performing or with their schools. So you might run into them, but they're not necessarily hanging out at the booth all day. But I think what isn't as common are non-percussionist composers hanging out there, right?
Absolutely.
You know, so I do think that injects a slightly different energy as for our booth versus other booths, because, you know, we're not. I don't think any of us identify as percussionists, you know, but we just happen to have gravitated towards writing music, percussion music, you know. So yeah, it makes so much sense to me. I mean, I'm surprised that nobody else has done that yet, or we don't have like copycat booths yet, but maybe we will. I know some composers who have started doing this at like the band conferences.
Yes.
Forget the name, but there's like a sort of similar kind of publishing collective idea of youngish composers who went to who have started going to band conferences to do the same thing. But it just makes so much sense to me, especially for things like percussion, and I think it's true in the band world and a couple others, where they really do play a lot of new music, right? You know? So that I think it makes a lot of sense for composers to put themselves in those places. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And speaking to the idea of a collective, I had two percussionists, two kind of young professional percussionists, come give a little performance a couple weeks ago, Travis Newman and Gabriella Meyer. And Mayer, sorry, I always say Meyer, it's Mayer, John Mayer, Gabriella Mayer. And they played a Dave Molk piece.
Oh, cool. Great.
And it started a conversation amongst the studio class of this idea of a composers collective, and how in music history class, they're learning about composer collectives from the 1800s, you know, and this is not a new concept, yet the mission of the composers collective seems to be different in some ways, you know, to sort of, I don't know, I guess it might be similar, but it's just we live in such different times now. So it's interesting to see how the idea of the composer collective has advanced, has developed throughout the years.
I mean, I think it could be a lot of different things. Like, I think the ones, like, there's some like I forget, the Mighty Five is like the Russian group that people grouped together from the 19th century. And then there's like Les Six, which is like the French Six. I think those groups are in many respects almost more historical labels than they were like I don't know if those five composers, like the Russian, like actually like got together and were like, let's be a collective. I think they were friends and in a similar kind of setting, and then I think historically they got a label. And even Les Six, I think Les Six might have done one thing together, but they kind of fractured pretty soon after that. But I mean, like, so living room music is, you know, we don't write music together. We're not doing creative projects together, but we're banding together for this publishing sort of enterprise, which I think that's a really interesting way for composers to get together and support each other's work. But there are also people who band together to write stuff. That's more the Sleeping Giant thing, is more we've done creative projects together where we actually write pieces as a collective, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know? But both approaches happen, and I think are happening more. And it makes a lot of sense, because I think it's a more efficient use of resources, and especially when you're a little bit maybe earlier in a career, it's like a better way to kind of just create opportunities, you know, if you're working together as opposed to just individual.
Cool. Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier, Robert, that we have a fourth member who's not here
Oh,
today,
yeah.
Ben Charles. And so he left a question for you, for
Okay.
us to ask you.
Go for it.
And that is, hi, Robert. I'm excited to be a member of the commissioning consortium for your new marimba piece.
Oh,
The consortium model seems to have taken off since Con Variations was composed by Alejandro Viñao in 2001. The process of composing for a single performer seems fairly clear-cut to me. How do you treat a commissioning consortium in regards to custom tailoring a piece of music to a group of players? Do you feel it has its artistic limitations, or do you find it to be freeing, not having to write with only one specific player in mind?
that's a great question. So I've done a handful of consortiums now, and I guess I've tried different things with each one. So the solution I set upon, and this was the piece before the marimba piece that was a consortium was a solo vibes piece, an economy of means. And that consortium was a really wide range of type of people, from students to really experienced professionals. And I think what I've settled on for that was I wrote a multi-movement piece where I sort of said it's okay to play the whole thing or to play excerpts of it. And I think different movements are different levels of difficulty. I was fully aware that there are going to be some movements that some undergrad might not want to tackle because it's really fiendishly difficult. But then there are going to be some movements that I think are more accessible. And I thought that if I had a little bit of everything, everyone would be happy. I think that for the most part worked out for that one. For the marimba piece, that one is going to be a little bit different. I still think there is a range of levels, but this was a project that Mike Compitello really spearheaded, and something that Mike and I worked on together very much individually, actually for a while before he even got the consortium together. So what we'll see how it works, but I sort of am trusting Mike in the sense of he put together the consortium, and I'm sort of trusting that if he's going to tell me if I'm really missing the mark, but I'm still essentially composing for him because he's the one that I've worked with the whole time. And he's the one that this marimba piece has this, I wish I could share my desktop because I actually on my desktop, I finished writing it sometime over the summer. So when I write percussion pieces that have unusual setups, I usually have to have a picture of the setup or something like that to refer back to. So I make it my desktop background. So it's this prepared marimba concept where the black keys essentially have objects placed on them and the white keys are clear, but it's so that you can write it so that it just looks like normal marimba music, but certain, like a prepared piano kind of approach. Certain pitches will have things on top of it. So anyway, Mike and I kind of worked on that setup, and it was already so stamped with Mike that my basic thought was, oh, I hear a little one. My basic
you
thought.
Should have said something while you could.
No, it's okay. It's so I'm right there with you guys. I understand. The basic thought is that I didn't want to compromise my artistic vision at all. I wanted to just write the piece I was going to write, and hope that if Mike is into it, everyone else is into it. That's basically, for this committed consortium, that was the approach I'm taking. We'll see if people are happy or not with that.
Well, I'm into it. I haven't started learning yet, but I listened to the audio demos.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I
Great.
think yeah. And I appreciate all, as a, consortium member, I really appreciate all of the work from the lead, the person who's putting it together in doing the workshopping with the composer.
Yes. And that's so important to me. I really want that to be done well.
The process is really important, and the collaborative aspect. Yeah.
But actually, something's interesting, and that's something that happened with the vibes piece that I didn't necessarily anticipate. So when I wrote it was for Doug and the consortium, and Doug in that case was kind of similar to Mike, was the main person I worked with, in terms of workshopping the material and that kind of stuff. But as the piece started to get played by other people in the consortium, something really cool happened, which is that I got a lot of feedback from a lot of different people. If you have 7 or 8 people play the same movement and they make different choices, especially the vibes piece also had preparation. So everyone kind of tackled the preparation a little bit differently. So I definitely learned a lot about what could work or what definitely didn't work or what problem spots that I didn't anticipate, because things that were easy for Doug were hard for someone else, and vice versa. And so it was almost like a sort of a collective revision process that went underway, because I'm very open to revising. I really want to know what works. Oh, hello. Who is that?
That's Robin.
Oh.
Hi. Hello. Oh, yes.
Yeah, there we go.
I know.
We're learning
But he's
about
getting
teething
so
right
big.
now.
Oh, teething. Yes.
Oh,
That's
man.
very fun. Sorry about that. He'll survive. I look back on those days of just having one, and it's like,
I'm sure one is easy. Yeah.
Yeah. A mom friend of, I don't mean to dismiss whatever struggles you may go through, because I know it's always hard no matter what. But a mom friend of ours recently commented, having one child is basically like having a handbag. It's like, it's just something you got to carry around.
Oh my gosh.
There's the problems when you have two, and people have more. It's just like, it gets. But the analogy I have, so we have two right now, and I don't know if we'll have three or not. We sort of talk about it, but I really don't know. But the analogy we have is like, it really changes when you go from man-to-man to zone defense.
Right. I'm sure.
But anyway, so with economy, I found out this sort of like group revision process, which was just so cool. And I'm happy to incorporate changes and, different. And even if I don't actually make changes, just learning like interpretive stuff, like, oh, this is what it sounds like if you take it at this tempo, or this is what it sounds like if you, approach the pedal this way or approach articulation this way. People have different ideas about shaping certain, just all kinds of things pop up when you hear a lot of different people play it. And so I kind of am expecting the marimba piece to go a similar way eventually. Right now, Mike is very actively working on it. And actually another guy, Matt Sherrick, is also spending a lot of time on it. And I'm anticipating, and they've said that I'm going to get feedback about kind of details like notation and things that may or may not fit well on the marimba. If there's something that's just prohibitively awkward, I'll probably change it. But so there'll be that kind of process that I think they'll probably put it through the ringer on that. But I have no doubt that when more people start playing it, I'll hear other things. And I think actually, to kind of circle way back to the original question, I think that is where you start to get the voices of the other people in the consortium to sort of seep into it. It's just, just logistically speaking, you can't write for 30 people at once. It's just, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So it's makes far more sense to really work with one person at that beginning phase when you're actually writing the notes and then you're workshopping, because, it's too hard to have a conversation with so many people. But then as more people start playing it, I think that other level, the sort of revision phase, the refinement phase, then you can really get a lot of input. And in fact, I think the more input, the better when you get to that part of it,
Yeah. And so for those of you who haven't heard Economy of Means yet, An Economy of Means, the record is out, right? On New Focus.
Yes, on New Focus, yeah.
In May. And I think one of the most unique things about the piece is Robert's use of tinfoil on a vibraphone. Can you tell us how you came up with that concept?
Sure.
Where the idea came from?
Yeah. Where did that originally come from? That piece, Lou. Do you know there's a solo vibe piece, Lou? It's spelled, I think, L-O-L-U with a little bar over it. I think that's
that's my cat's name, so I'm definitely going to try to find that piece now.
I feel like
it's my spelling.
Oh, really? I feel like I need to Google it real quick to verify what's going on, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, and that I wish I could remember the name of the composer. It's actually it's a brilliant piece. And it's about 5 minutes long, and I think that LU means like it's like short for the element aluminum. Like I don't know. I gotta look it up. That kind of was a while ago. I might be totally wrong, but whatever. So there's a piece for solo vibraphone by this composer who I can't remember right now.
Hugo Morales.
That's it, Hugo Morales. Yes. Morales. So
interesting.
so Doug knew that piece and told me to check it out early on LU with the bar over it. And I'm pretty sure L
Yeah, I've
bar over
heard
it
this.
means is like, I want to say it's like the periodic table symbol for aluminum, but I'm not sure. But I think that's what it might be. Anyway, so he does all these really interesting things, and it's not just tinfoil. He does other, like a bunch of other, like there's like a metal thimble on the finger, and he does like kind of cool stuff with muting and making sounds. And then there is tinfoil, I think. So he does all kinds of interesting sounds. It's like a 5-minute or a 7-minute piece. So that kind of first keyed me into it. And then also amid the noise, the Jason Shooting piece, there's, I think, parts that have the tinfoil vibraphone buzzy sound. So I kind of, those sort of sounds were where I first heard them. And, but then I just started messing around with it myself, just playing. I actually borrowed Maria Finkelmeyer's vibraphone. I wrote, most of the sounds were developed on her instrument. Actually, it wasn't hers. She was borrowing it from Greg Jukes. I don't know if you guys know Greg.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So anyway, so she was borrowing his vibraphone. Then I was just using
double borrow.
Yeah. So I was just messing around, experimenting with different, what happens when you bow it, what happens when you strike it, and that kind of stuff. I guess, I don't know if it's an innovation, but I guess the thing that's different from my approach as opposed to, I know like the way Jason does it in Amid the Noise is he puts it underneath the bars. So like top of the resonators under the bars, which actually works really well and creates a wonderful buzz. The only problem is that if you want to take it off, then you have to like take off the bars. So it's not so easy to take it on and off. So so I just experimented with using loose leaf sheets. You can take it off, you can take it on, you can bow it, and you can hit it, get lots of different sounds. We, over the course of that, we learned tinfoil can be a sort of finicky, and I think what we learned is you need to get like the really high quality tinfoil, like not the cheapest stuff, but stuff that has a little more strength to it, because basically the more crumpled it gets, the worse it sounds. So like a fresh sheet sounds best, and I think it's because what basically needs to happen is that it needs to be able to like buzz, and if it's all crumply, I guess it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't resonate as much. And then the other thing is like how you place it matters. Like some people's first thought was I need to like pat it down and make sure it's like really close to the keys, but actually if you even like sort of like, I don't know, like curve it up a little bit so it's like on top but not like, it basically needs to be flexible enough that it can kind of like move around and like buzz. I think I think my child is arriving. Hi, Henry.
No.
I'm sorry, I can watch a movie now.
Oh, great. Do you want to say hi to everybody? This is my son, Henry. Say hello.
Hi, Henry.
Henry's going to watch a movie now. He's very excited. He's been wanting to do this all day.
That's great. I would love to do that.
Nice.
It looks like you have all your teeth. That must be amazing.
Yes. What are you going to watch, Henry?
Octonauts.
He's going to watch Octonauts.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the other one's here too. Everyone's here.
Hi.
That's
Oh.
I'm in the middle of talking about aluminum foil vibraphone preparation.
Wow.
I'm very excited. Yes. But anyway, okay, Henry, why don't you go watch the movie? Okay, bye, guys. Anyway, so not to get too technical, but we learned that you need high quality foil and you need it to just sort of rest loosely and a fresh sheet, and then you get the best sort of buzz. And then, I mean, as you all know, because you're percussionists, like I learned that not every bowing technique is the same, and that actually there's kind of an art to bowing in such a way that you get a really nice sustain and that you have control over it. And even then when you add the tinfoil, that's also its own kind of little, because there's easily be a little finesse to sort of like, you can finesse it in a way that the buzz becomes very, has a nice shape to it. And like, anyway, it has a lot more, there's a lot more technique than I realized when I just thought, oh, I'm going to throw some foil on, and you know what I mean? Like, so that was really interesting to discover. But then as a foil to the foil, I had some other simple preparations, just some heavy paper to create a sort of ticky-tacky, thwacky sort of sound, which was sort of meant to be a real contrast to the foil sound. And then a lot of like playing different parts of the instrument, you know, resonator scrapes, hitting the sides, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I had a student who worked on just one of the tinfoil movements last semester.
No.
And we had, yeah, I mean, what you're describing is exactly what we experienced. Like there had to be fresh foil every single time. And it was really fun experimenting with him and watching him go through that process of finding new ways to make it sound different. And I also, while he was working on that, I would just kept thinking about, we study a lot of African music here at Mizzou, and specifically Shona music from Zimbabwe and Dagara music from Ghana. And in both of those cultures, the instruments have a buzzing effect on both the jil and on the mbira. Yeah. And the first question people always ask when hearing those instruments for the first time is like, what is that sound? Like, why is that there? And I did a little segment on the podcast a few months ago about, you know, that concept of having some kind of buzzing aesthetic, and how on the whole African continent, and how it exists in a lot of the instruments, and not even just on the African continent, but in South America, Middle East, there are a lot of instruments that have a buzzing aesthetic. And there was an article I found about relating it to language, and that there's something in the aesthetic of some of these languages that make that sound pleasurable to the ear. And maybe that's why it exists in a lot of the instruments. Wow. And also, one of our guests that we had last year, one of our teachers had said, when he explained the instrument, the jil, to an audience of people who hadn't heard it before, he would say, so now your marimbas, when they have a buzz in them, you think that they're broken. In our instruments, if there's not a buzz, we think they're broken, you know? So it's just a matter of what aesthetic you're looking for. And it's just so funny that we spend so much time getting the buzzes out of our marimbas. And now you've introduced this whole buzzing concept on the vibraphone, which is pretty cool. That's
really interesting. Yeah. I would love to learn more about that. That's so cool. I had no idea about that, but I mean, that makes sense. And, you know, I love the sound of a buzz. It's has so much character and color. And I mean, I love it. Like a good sizzle cymbal is wonderful, you know, put a metal bead on a cymbal, and it just gives it such a nice sound. That's fascinating. That's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I love the piece. Thanks for contributing that and all of the other percussion music you have contributed.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. I like writing it.
Congratulations! It's so great to see these pieces, and the economy of means piece, and I can't wait to see the new marimba solo.
Yeah, me too. That one's that's going to be fun when we finally work it out. I think there's some tricky parts, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited about it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, to shift gears a little bit, there's a recent news item. Have you guys heard of the Music Modernization Act by chance?
No, I haven't. What is that about?
So it's very much not really in the news, but I have to say, so if you look it up real quick, you'll get a whole lot of, you know, anywhere from 2 to 20-minute little videos of people discussing it or trying to explain it. But I got to say, if you really want to understand it, not that I fully understand it yet, but the best thing I've seen is just go watch them present it on the Senate floor. Orrin Hatch and the guy from Tennessee. Oh, shoot.
Corker? Bob Corker?
Oh, a different guy. Lamar Alexander.
Oh, Lamar Alexander.
From Tennessee. They introduce it. They explain it. They don't discuss it. They don't do anything like that. It takes 35 minutes for them just to explain it. So I'm going to try to hit some highlights. But a good refresher about streaming payout, and just to kind of explain what some of the issues are. If you go back to Sean Gallant episode, I always say his name wrong. Sean Gallant. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Sean Gallant episode 105, I did a little segment on how people and companies are cheating Spotify, and how Spotify pays out its royalties, and how it's very easy to exploit that system, and how a lot of people have exploited that system. But let me just give you some quick facts about kind of where we're at with streaming music right now. So Spotify pays about $0.006 all the way up to $0.0084 per stream to the holder of music rights. So, and the holder can be split among a lot of different entities. That can be the record label, the producers, the artists, the songwriters, plural. There can be multiple songwriters. And it's very hard to get any decent amount of money in the hands of really any of these people, but primarily the songwriters. And the Music Modernization Act really is with the songwriter in mind mostly. So another fun fact, copyright, as what it means, as soon as you make something tangible, like a piece of music tangible, and the ways you do that are either you record it or you put it down to paper, somehow you've made a tangible replication of it, you do own the copyright, and there are 6 slices, so to speak, of copyright. There's the right of reproduction, 2, the right of public performance, 3, the right of derivatives, like if someone wants to make an arrangement or vary it in some way or use a piece of it. There's public display, there's transmissions of your work, and then there's also distribution. So this is all according to Jeff Price, who is the founder of TuneCore and Spin Art Records, and this is from the speech he gave at San Francisco Music Tech Summit not too long ago, in recent couple of years. Another fun fact, one testimony online said that a very popular artist, I didn't get the name, but it does gel with the figures I gave you about payout per stream. 70 million streams paid out to, does anybody want to guess how much money? This was a half composition share.
I don't know.
Yeah,
$70,000.
That's a reasonable amount. The amount was $1,000.
Wow.
For 70 million streams. And
yeah, that's crazy. I guess if you said 0.0006 or whatever.
Oh man, yeah. Well, okay, and that 0.006, which is the lowest they're currently reporting, and I did the math on this, this would actually be a little lower, but it's complicated because again, there's 6 slices to that copyright. So all I knew about this particular person or example is that she was half of the songwriting share. So then there's all the other shares. So it's just like so much less than that amount they're paying out.
Right.
Yeah, it's just terrible, terrible, terrible. If you do that math on 1 billion streams, which we do have artists with 1 billion streams on Spotify, it would be $14,000 for a half composition share. So that's pretty good. $14,000, that's a lot. But man, 1 billion streams, that is a worldwide mega hit. You know, that's there's major, major money in there. So kind of their whole point is that for a songwriter, this is not what they consider fair market value, because there's much, much more money in the market on 1 billion streams than that much. So anyway, again, I would just watch the whole thing. You can find it on YouTube. It's 35 minutes from start to finish, and that's the best way to understand it, I think. So I'll do my best. So yeah, Senators Orrin Hatch of Utah and Lamar Alexander from Tennessee introduced this. And yeah, they make it short, MMA, but it's not mixed martial arts. It's the Music Modernization Act. And I have to say, when I heard it, like Music Modernization Act, oh, cool, finally Congress is doing something so that the world will acknowledge modern music. But no, it's like singer-songwriter music. So anyway, it could affect us some, especially with mechanical licensing and stuff. So what they say it does is this creates a blanket mechanical license, meaning like one all-encompassing license, which will be administered by a new licensing collective. And this is really where people begin to have objections, because they're saying, well, who's a part of this licensing collective? And how do we control what they can do and the decisions they can make? And that's for far I can tell, the only point of controversy about all of this. Otherwise, it has widespread support from ASCAP, from BMI. CSAC had a problem with it, but otherwise, it's just like everyone is totally for it. It's bipartisan. What do Republicans and Democrats care about this? They're all for it. It's all positive. So this Mechanical Licensing Collective will allow music services like iTunes, Spotify, etc. to seek out a single license rather than negotiate with individual publishers and songwriters. So right now, they may have to go to several different sources for those 6 slices of copyright. And sometimes they can't even find some of those sources. And people do stuff like use aliases when they write music and then sue the company years later. And it's just like so messy. So this collective will manage a database of all publisher in songwriter licenses. They also will ensure that copyright holders of unmatched songs, meaning that you can't figure out who one of the songwriter contributors might be, will be paid when ownership is claimed within 3 years. So that means the collective will require all the music services to hold their royalties for 3 years until a writer claims that song. So if you find your song on iTunes and you say, hey, I never received a royalty with this, okay, you can claim it. And they have 3 years to let you do that, and they'll release all your royalties to you for those up to 3 years. Let's see. This also protects these services from getting sued later, like I said. So again, like Spotify and iTunes, they support this deal, and Amazon streaming, they want this deal because it's a huge headache for them to try to figure out who to pay, and they want to not get sued later. They just want to do it right once and let it all happen. So it protects them from getting sued later. They often want to pay, but cannot when the song is unmatched. The collective will also determine that writers are being paid fairly according to market value. So he summarizes it, creates simple licensing system that will reflect the digital age, will make it easier to pay the artists and songwriters when their music is streamed or replicated, and 3, allow them to be paid a fair market value. So currently there are, or at least when they introduced this, it's probably a little different now, but not by much, 86 million paying subscribers to digital music services like iTunes and Spotify and Amazon, 252 billion music streams, as in songs streamed, and in 2016, streaming music generated over half of the music industry revenue, 51% of the music industry revenue. And way back in 1909, Congress gave copyright owners the exclusive right to make, reproduce, and distribute their works. At the time, these were primarily piano rolls, which, if you guys remember, we talked about this before, that's where the term mechanical license comes from. It's left over all the way back from when people were making literal replications of songs on machines. That's why it's called mechanical license. We still use that term today because that law still from 1909 is still the same way, and they're finally trying to change it. So Congress has set, at the time, Congress set that payment at 2 cents per copy in 1909, which is the buying power of 57 cents today, much, much less than the 0.00 whatever share that I mentioned before. So the Copyright Royalty Board is a 3-panel judge at the Library of Congress. They determine what that rate is. So they're the ones that said that would be 2 cents back then. And today they've updated it to 9.1 cents, which is far below the market standard.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. And sorry, please feel free to interrupt if it's like a little dizzying.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating what streaming has done to the world of music. Definitely some bad, but also some good. I think most of us stream now, and I don't know. One thing I do think about when you said that is copyright for music. Mechanical rights only started existing in 1909, so just over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like we might be returning to an era where essentially recordings are worthless. What I mean is worthless in and of themselves. Obviously, artistically, they're not worthless, but they're worth money in other ways. Like, for example, film and TV rights are worth quite a lot of money, or licensing for commercials, or for like grand rights for dramatic, for a play or for a dance performance. Those kind of rights still are worth a lot and probably will continue to be worth a lot. But when a stream is going to give 0.006 or whatever, or more than that, 0.000, or was it 3 or 4 zeros? I don't know how many zeros.
2.6.
Yeah. When you're going to get that little from a stream, it's essentially worthless when it comes to anyone but a global megastar.
Right.
So it's sort of weird. I mean, I think even for small artists, independent artists, experimental artists, even for those folks, 30 years ago, there was a pretty well-established notion that you could at least recoup the cost from a CD or make something because people bought them, that's almost inconceivable now. which is a funny way. But if you think about it, I guess that's the way music was before recording existed. You know, it's the idea of recording itself is like is a 20th century phenomenon.
Right.
I don't know what that all adds up to, but I make records. I've made 2 albums, and I've been on other ones, and it's something I want to keep doing. And I definitely have to think about why. What's the point? Because it doesn't really do much financially. But but there is always, I have actually had some tracks picked up for commercial purposes and probably made more money through that than I have through all of my streaming royalties put together, which I don't know how much it's been. I mean, I have been lucky to have a few things like get picked up by like a playlist or something, and then all of a sudden you get like tens of thousands of streams. But that doesn't add up to more than maybe like $1. I don't know if that, like
wow.
50 cents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it doesn't, it's like so cool to see that thousands of people have listened to something, but it doesn't mean
that's
anything.
Way more valuable than the dollar, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the other part of it, which is that, it used to be that there's a considerable investment to making the physical product, to duplicating the disc, getting the artwork, actually recording it. Obviously, all of those costs have gone down considerably. It's much less expensive to make high quality recordings now than it was even 10, 15, 20 years ago. But now with streaming, you can even skip making an object, and you can even skip making an album. Some people, I've noticed more and more that some people are releasing like single tracks or like single compositions, like release a 20-minute piece or release a 15-minute piece, like a single, right? Mm-hmm. That is very easy to do. And, so in a way, the streaming does allow for considerable more flexibility in terms of how you release and what you release. And also maybe you can reach more ears, maybe. But yeah, I don't think you're making any money from streams. It's just not possible. Even with whatever this new thing, I still don't fully understand what this new thing is going to do in terms of like how it affects me. But it doesn't sound like it's changing the rate of what a stream is worth,
The way it will do that is going on just a little more, performance rights organizations like BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, they are still under laws from 1940, and the problem is like, is this going to change the rate? The verbiage they're under is reasonable performance royalty. Yeah. So, and something that the 2 senators are saying is that the rate we're being paid out at is way, way below the true market value of these streams. So when you can't agree with your radio station or your venue or whatever, when they can't agree what fair market value is, they must literally go to federal rate court, which only exists in Southern District of New York. Okay. And currently that 1 judge seat is not allowed to consider what the performer of that song earns when assessing the rate that the songwriter should be given. So the judge is meant to determine that, but they're not allowed to say, hey, this songwriter that wrote Ed Sheeran's song that he's making millions of dollars off of on tour every year, they're not allowed to consider that millions of dollars, and the MMA would change that. So let's see, more from my notes here. Currently, the judge is not allowed to consider what the performer earns when assessing what rate the songwriter would get. MMA changes this to allow performance rights organizations to introduce evidence to that judge of what fair market value is. So you can show, no, look, this is what this song is really worth. This other performer is doing this here, is doing that there. And a good example, since you mentioned TV and advertising, there's a very well-known marimbist who had a very well-known marimba piece played on the show Weeds. Okay, and he told me how much he made. I don't know if he would want me to share it or not, but it's a shame. I mean, it's so anyway, you're right, like there is potential there.
Like, so he didn't make enough, or he made a good amount?
Very little, especially considering how much Weeds is worth.
Right, yeah. No, I'm very curious. I mean, so the thing with TV and film licensing, those are very personalized agreements
Right.
that the composer would have with whatever production is dealing with it. So yeah, who knows how that came about or what that he was offered. I mean, yeah, that could be widely variable. The same, there could have been tracks of music on that very episode that got paid exponentially more than
Right.
this person, just based on whatever contract they had. There's not a standard, I think. I
I
don't,
think
maybe there is.
this would be an attempt to standardize it a little more to
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
make sure that you can plead the case of, hey, what this is really worth,
right,
and require they pay the songwriter, or in this
right,
case the composer,
right,
something closer to fair market value.
right. That makes sense.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
seems like a good thing, and the PROs are interested in it because it means they're going to be able to plea those cases more often. They can make a case for, no, this music is worth more. And I guess the thing I'm a little skeptical of, what does this mean that their blanket licensing fees that they currently have with like universities and giant venues and and radio, if those blanket licensing fees are simply going to go up? And maybe that's why they're excited about it, is because they can justify them being raised. I don't know that. They
I
didn't
don't
mention
know.
anything about that.
It is so mysterious to me how performance licenses work, because I'm ASCAP. I don't know what you are, but I'll get an ASCAP statement, and they catch some things they don't.
Yeah.
I submit programs to many things as I can, and sometimes they credit things, sometimes they don't. It's like a total black box, and the formula that they use to determine whatever you get paid is also mysterious. It's very I just look at it as like I guess it's usually March or April. It's like a bonus check, and like
Right.
I have no idea what to expect. You know what I mean?
But you're
It's
never
like,
gonna like count on it.
no, you can't count on it. And sometimes
Yeah.
you're like, oh, well, cool, great. I don't know how you arrived at that figure, but great.
Right. Well, and to do what they want you to do, they want you to submit programs of like beautiful scans of every program. Dude, yeah, right. Like it's just not
Right.
practical. It's like, what?
No.
You want me to chase down every performance of these? There's no way. There's it can, yeah, anyway. But yeah, I view it the same way. It's just like, oh, okay, I hope they catch a lot of them and I hope it works out good. And I'm sure I'd make more money if I was actively seeking program scans like people do, but I don't know, I can't fathom trying to do that. Sounds way too difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to receive the money, but I also do feel like, in some sense, we're all just being like supported by Beyonce. But what I mean is that like the whole concept here is that you have a venue, and they sell tickets, and they're going to make X number of dollars from the ticket sales, and so everyone should get a cut based on that. But of course, like if you have a blanket license at a venue, I guarantee the show that has a program to contemporary classical piece is not making anywhere close to what the show that has Beyonce, making. So
No way.
for our individual performances at a venue, like that idea of like, oh, you're getting a cut of ticket sales and that sort of, it doesn't really work, because we're just like with a blanket license, they're sort of thinking about everything that happens there over the course of their season, and we're just like one small piece of that puzzle. So I mean, I just keep expecting that someday they're going to wake up and be like, why are we subsidizing these composers that nobody listens to? And then we'll get nothing. But it hasn't happened yet.
It also seems like so much extra administrative work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for the composer, but also for these organizations.
Yeah, and I have a suspicion that's why there are a lot of holes in our statements, because I don't think they don't chase down every lead. They're not, really trying to. I mean, I think if you're like a really big name, because I guess do they make money off the two cut? Like, how does it work? I don't even know. Like every time we get a licensing fee, do they get some small percentage? Do they have a financial incentive to track these down? Is that part of how it works? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They want to know more of your performances they can claim because they get a percentage of it.
Yeah, so I guess if you're like a really big, I bet you they work hard to find every performance of a John Adams orchestra piece or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't think they're like trolling the universities of America to find every instance of economy of means Movement 2 chorale appearing
Yet.
on a on an undergrad recital, junior recital. I don't think they're trolling for that data.
Yeah, right.
Not yet.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, it is really interesting to think about the economics of all this because, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think many of us, well, I think actually everyone on this call has an academic job. So, we all have different ways of paying for our life. And the music, the composition, the performance is only 1% of it, and usually not the biggest percentage necessarily,
Right. Well, and something I said on that episode, I referenced back Sean Gallant's episode 105. The reason the whole Spotify streaming thing doesn't bother me is because there's a different chunk of money behind it. It's good for me to just get it out there because there's publishing, but a lot of these songwriters, of course, there's no published paper behind any of it.
Right.
Their sole source of revenue is how much the song gets sold and how many replications are made. So I think for us, it makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, put your stuff out there for free, put it on YouTube, put it on Spotify, whatever, because there are real dollars in people going to you as a self-publisher. And then, you make way bigger money than.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually why, I mean, it's not why, because it's not like Boozy and Hawks has been coming banging down my door, but like, I'm self-published. I have not been approached by a major publisher, but if I were to be, I think I would think twice, honestly, at this point. I mean, if you asked me that 10 years ago, I would be like salivating for the chance to be represented by some major publisher because of the prestige. Right. But now I just think, I don't know, like I keep it all. Like, if there's a sell a score, I have a performance, I keep that. And I feel like, that, with a publisher, it's just a very small cut. You get a really small percentage. And anyway, I think there's a lot of other revenue streams as a self-publisher. And also for notated music, you could sell a score, you could have a performance. I look at these videos that I put up on YouTube. I have a lot of nicely produced videos of my work. I mean, they're essentially just a way for people to see the piece, to hear the piece in a really well presented, well documented way, and it leads to more performances, and it leads to more commissions. It leads to things like that, and that's where that's where the investment pays off, basically. Of course. It's not in YouTube streams, that's for sure.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's not like you're trying to get a cut from YouTube streams or something.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how, I mean, this is a whole other conversation that we don't need to have today, but we have talked about before of these big publishing companies and what's going to happen what is happening now and what's going to happen in the next 5 years with how music is rented or distributed. And I think, some of these big companies are going to change, and I think it's going to change. It could shift the landscape,
Yeah.
Like we had Ross Carr on the podcast last week, 2 weeks ago or something, from International Contemporary Ensemble. And they have there is a member of ICE is like on the board of SHOT, or who had met with a board member of SHOT, because they wanted to know, hey, what do you guys need? Where is everything moving? What is the current trend? They want to be at the head of that. And that's
and Shot, I don't know how you pronounce it. I always pronounce it Shot, but it might be Shot.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. But so Shot has tried to do that. They have a thing called PSNY, which is called Project Shot New York, and it's a digital only service where you buy PDFs, and I guess that was fairly innovative for publishers. And I think it worked pretty well, but I actually have a lot of friends on that, and I think sometimes they're frustrated. It's a classic thing with the publisher, no matter what they're doing. They can't give all of their resources and attention to everyone all the time, right? Unless you're maybe the biggest name there, they can't necessarily support you 100% always. So it is always easy to potentially get lost in the sort of background noise of this larger catalog. And I think that is one of the advantages of going at your own. So, okay, if you're with a publisher, you are sort of propped up by their reputation, right? And that's like a platform. But on the flip side, you could get lost. but by yourself, you have to build your own platform. You need to, over time, build enough visibility for yourself that people like know who you are and like want to check it out. But you can put all your energy into representing yourself, right? You can give all the attention you need to yourself. Like if you need to push a project or promote something, you can do that. Like there's no bureaucracy or administrative process or hurdle to go through. It's just like, oh, I'm doing this. This is what I'm going to promote and put out. So yeah, I think that can be a real advantage. Actually, on this topic of publishing, I don't know. Have you guys checked out this thing called Encoda? Have you heard about this thing?
No.
Is that they will, you keep your copyright, but they'll publish it and ship it for you? And
no, although you mean just a distribution service, like a company that prints and ships and that kind of thing?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Oh no, those are great. I use those, but we can talk about that. But no, I just encountered this like 2 weeks ago. It is an app that you can download. Like I have it on my iPad. I don't know if they have it on for other devices, but it's called Nkoda. And you pay a month. It's really interesting. You pay a monthly subscription fee, like $10 a month, and you can access all of their PDF materials. And like Boozy is on it. I think Shot is on it. A lot of big publishers are on it. So like,
whoa,
you can like go get like, I was just checking out like Copland's Third Symphony, all the parts, the score, PDF.
Is this like Scribd?
What is? I don't know that. And maybe
are these all consenting parties to have these PDFs? Because there are other sites that it's like just file sharing.
No, this is super legit. This is like definitely, this is not under the table. There's no way Boozy would let this happen. No, this is legit. This is like advertising on it, and it'll be like Boozy's featured collection or something like that. Okay. It'd be like, yeah.
Scribd seems very much the same, but they'll let anyone with an account upload.
Oh, no, they do have that. I do think you could join as a member and upload your stuff.
Yeah, but like, it's the same then.
but this is definitely something that publishers have bought into because they have their own places in the app.
Where they do on Scribd as well. Okay. The ones that have consented.
Right.
But sorry, you were explaining it.
No, that sounds like a similar thing, but you can get all the parts to an orchestra piece. You can get everything you need, and you just do a subscription service, which seems to me to be a really interesting model.
And it's $10 a month.
Yeah, Encoda is $10. Nkoda. I've just been using it because I like to study scores, and it's a really easy way to kind of find like almost anything. And I mean, interesting. Yeah. And it's some of the publishers, I don't know. I kind of hope that paper materials go the way of the dinosaur soon. They can't come soon enough. I'm really sick of paper materials. Yeah. But so something like Encoda could kind of help maybe that could help make that happen. I don't know.
Right.
Megan, I think you were going to segue us to something different.
Yes, I wanted to segue from, we were talking about recordings and, yes, I wanted to segue into live music, and I wanted to ask Robert about his concert series called Timestwo, and I have the website pulled up. I've been watching this for a couple of years now, and it's a concert series that Robert has formed with Maria Finkelmeyer, one of our previous guests, and they curate it together. But I just wanted to read the mission statement before I ask Robert about it, for those of you who haven't heard about it yet. It's in Boston, and it's a concert series aiming to provide a common space where musicians from different backgrounds come together to share work and ideas. Whether it be from different places, genres, or styles, each Timestwo event pairs musicians with distinct voices in a laid-back, accessible context. Listen to the music, have a drink, hang out. That's the idea. Please join us. And I was just looking over the guests that you're featuring on the series, and it's such cool stuff. It's such just people I haven't heard of before, and I'm curious of where you find the music that you're featuring, and also how you pair the two acts together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Timestwo. So we find it usually by word of mouth or by research. We have a running list of artists we find interesting or compelling, or artists that have contacted us. And we're basically trying to pair a Boston group with an out of town group, and that's one of the ideas. And we're also trying to often pair, like come up with what we think will be an interesting contrast, or either complementary or really very different. So like this season, our first event is Lajova and acoustic quintet called Fade Blue. And Lajova is sort of, he writes notated contemporary music, but he's also a violinist himself. And so I think his set will sort of fall in the cracks of the two, whereas Fade Blue is definitely more of like a band kind of approach to making music. But they're all like very versatile musicians who can kind of function in many different genres. So we think there'll be like a kind of an interesting overlap between those two types of music makers. So that's kind of the sort of thinking we're going into programming, is trying to find intersections between artists that don't necessarily know each other, or maybe have some differences, but nonetheless there's like some common ground, and trying to create a really nice pairing, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. And I would think that inevitably someone who's coming to the concert that knows one group probably doesn't know the other group, for the very reasons that you just described. And so it seems like everyone is experiencing something new, which is cool.
Yeah, and what's actually been neat is that cross-pollination has even led to artists collaborating with each other as well. Like people who met because they shared a bill together, didn't know each other, and then like did some, continued that in some other way.
Cool.
That's been really cool. And definitely the audience exposure thing is really cool, because there's going to be a different type of person most likely that listens to a group like Fade Blue versus someone who knows Lev's music.
Right.
And they'll be hopefully in the same room and might hear something surprising but interesting, which I think is always nice.
Very cool. I'd love to come check out one in person.
Yeah. And we definitely we really wanted to make it a very welcoming environment, something where you could just feel comfortable. And sometimes I think concert halls have a little bit of a formality to them that could be alienating to someone who's not used to that. Whereas this has a very like laid back salon kind of vibe to it. So which I really like. I really like those kind of experiences. But even so, it still is focused on the music. I know that there's like definitely been a trend in presenting classical music over the last 10 years or so. It's like, classical music's too uptight. Let's put it in a bar. And everyone's like, okay, classical music at a bar. But then it's like loud and everything.
Wait, we can't hear.
It sounds terrible because it's like not a room that was ever meant for music.
Right.
So I appreciate that idea of like, let's take it out of the concert hall. But I think it's still important to focus on the music, because that's what's special about the experience, So the space that we usually have the concerts is actually, it's a recording studio, but they have a really big main room that they also let people use for live events. So, so it sounds great in there, and it strikes a nice balance, I think, between sounding good and focusing on the music, but still being accessible and laid back.
Cool.
Thanks so much for joining us. Is there anything else we should touch on, or can you tell us what we talked about the Marimba Commission?
Yes.
Is there anything else coming up we could look forward to?
Sure. Yeah, the big thing that I'm working on right now, and that's percussion oriented, is I'm writing a percussion concerto for Colin Curry and the Albany Symphony.
Cool.
And that's going to be premiered in March 2019. And I don't know if you guys can look forward to it, because in the sense of orchestra world is so difficult with recordings, so I don't even know if I'll be allowed to share this recording when I finally get it. But I'm looking at this as a long arc, and I hope that the piece will have some legs. I hope that Colin will perform it more. I also know that once I finish it, I'm going to probably try to arrange it for some other combination, like maybe wind ensemble, for example.
Cool. Yeah.
I just like, I have so many friends in the percussion world and many of them teach at schools, and many of them either there's a new music ensemble at the school or there's a wind ensemble at the school. And I just feel like if this concerto could have a second life eventually in that context, then it could get exponentially more performances. So eventually, I hope that the piece will trickle out of the rarefied air of orchestra land where you can never share a recording, maybe it'll record it eventually as an orchestra piece, but that's a really long process. But I'm really excited about the piece, and it's definitely a big project. I've never written a concerto before, and I've never written a piece that's so long for orchestra before. But that's what I'm working on now. So, and then you mentioned the album that's out, and you also mentioned the video that just came out on Vic Firth, which is video of Doug playing Just the Vibes piece, and that's a really beautiful video. So that's out there to check out too. Yeah.
Very cool. And thanks so much again for joining us. I'm going to forego our quiz because it looks like Laurel's got her hands full. So
okay.
Quiz?
I get quizzed, or who? What's the quiz? I mean,
we have a quiz. It's intense. The scores are really tight right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
we do a trivia review.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's okay. We only have Megan at the moment. So anyway, we'll say bye for now. But Robert Honstein, thanks so much. It's great to meet you.
Nice thanks for joining us.
Nice to meet. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And will you guys be at PASIC or?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, okay. Well, I hope to see you there.
We'll definitely see you.
Yes. See you on the couch.
On the couch. Stop by. If it's crowded, we'll make space for you, Casey. So
thanks. We'll have a baby with us, so they're more accommodating when you have a baby. Everyone's so.
Oh yes. Have you do you have special baby headphones that you're gonna bring?
We do.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have some wonderful pictures of my son taking him, actually some Timestwo concerts where he's wearing these giant, it looks like he's going to a shooting range or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's really hilarious.
It's actually my Facebook profile is my son smiling and he's got his headphones on. It's really
It's great. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. It was it was nice to be on the show. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.